This offseason, we have seen the likes of Jeffrey Simmons and Dexter Lawrence get huge contract extensions at the defensive tackle positions. Quinnen Williams and Chris Jones are expecting the same. It looks like Quinnen Williams is next up. We will see how that impacts the contract negotiations with Chris Jones and the Kansas City Chiefs. And also, we'll get into these ridiculous trade rumors that Chiefs Kingdom has regarding Chris Jones. But before we do get into all of that, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, as I'm going to keep you up to date on anything Kansas City Chief related that you do not want to miss out on. And without further ado, let's have some fun. Now, before we kick off this video and the Chris Jones discussion, it is finally here. Phase 3 of the OTAs, day 1, kicked off Monday. We are in day 2 as it is Tuesday, and finally, we are getting some action hit the field. I don't think we will get any basically reporting, footage, interviews until we go in tomorrow for day 3. So you best believe I'm going to be dialed in, zoomed in, and ready to go. It's going to be fun covering OTAs going through the end of May and into early part of June. Now, let's discuss what has been the topic of conversation throughout this entire offseason. And it is not the wide receiver position. It is focusing in on Chris Jones and when he is likely to get an extension. As I mentioned to start this video, we've seen Dexter Lawrence and then we've seen Jeffrey Simmons sign hefty contract extensions. But nothing too out of the ordinary and nothing to where it would jeopardize to what we expect Chris Jones to sign. But now we got reports with Quinnen Williams that he is looking for a big deal to become the second highest paid defensive tackle in the league, and he wants to be in the range of 25 to 30 million a year. That is interesting and intriguing because that is around the ballpark figure that I would think Chris Jones would be in. So for a domino to fall, I think Quinnen Williams would be next. Now, do I think it would jeopardize what the Kansas City Chiefs may do with Chris Jones? I mean, it could, but at the end of the day, I don't think it will. I think Quinnen Williams will get paid, and I think Chris Jones will get paid. And I think they will get paid by the teams that they are already on. I think Quinnen Williams will stay a Jet, and I think Chris Jones will stay a Kansas City Chief. Now, we've seen Chris Jones, he has reported to OTAs. Quinnen Williams has taken a different stance, and he has not reported to the Jets OTAs. So I believe, and also Robert Saleh said, they feel they will get a deal done. I feel like that deal will get done quicker because they would love to see Quinnen Williams in camp. But let's say Quinnen Williams signs a deal in the range of $25 to $26 million a year. That basically changes the perspective on what I think Chris Jones will get, because I've been mentioning Chris Jones deserves to be 25 mil plus. Now, the top paid defensive tackle in the league is Aaron Donald at 30 mil. And if you got to get closer to that with Chris Jones, you do it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Now, I'm not saying you pay him 30 mil, and I'm not saying Chris Jones is requesting that, but you definitely pay him north of the 25 million. Whether it be 26 or 27, I think that is the perfect range for him. He is a game-changing, game-wrecking defensive tackle. And if you don't have him on this team, or if you have him holding out, this defense is completely different. And I think Chiefs Kingdom, and maybe not in totality with everyone, but I think we're not appreciating and we're undervaluing what Chris Jones is really all about. Last year was Chris Jones' best year. He had 15.5 sacks, and he was a game wrecker throughout the majority of the season. In the defensive tackle spot, and even at the end as well. We've seen the growth. We've seen the maturity evolve immensely last season. When you go back just to the prior season when he tried to start off the year as basically just a defensive end pass rusher, it did not look too promising whatsoever. So they kicked him back out in the inside, and that's where he showed that's his true value. That's what he was born to do. But also where he evolved was rotational wise. They were able to put him in at DN, and we saw it in the AFC Championship game. He got a sack on Joe Burrow at the defensive end spot. It's good to see basically Chris Jones get an arsenal now, and it's so exciting to see. He is different than any defensive tackle in this league. Most defensive tackles in this league, their sack range is going to be between 8 to 10 sacks a year. With Chris Jones, you could be guaranteed 10 to 12 sacks a year. I think his growth is immense, and it's just going to keep growing and growing. Now, when you look at years past, you'll say there's some inconsistencies because throughout his career, Chris Jones now has 2 seasons of 15 and a half sacks. But in between that span, he does have a 7.5 and 2 9-sack seasons. Now, what I would attest that to is he is the sole contributor on that defensive line. It is easy to know what offenses are going to do is double team and make sure you do not let Chris Jones beat him. So I'm going to focus in more on, instead of quote, trading Chris Jones, let's talk about that. The fact that that's something that Chiefs Kingdom is even honoring, or I don't even know if honoring is the word I want to go there, but mentioning on Twitter is that they should trade Chris Jones and get the most of his value because you don't know when downhill can start happening. Knock it off. Like, really? No. This is not a Tyreek Hill situation. It was never a Tyreek Hill situation. One, you got the bang for your buck out of Tyreek Hill. You could trade all those same picks for Chris Jones and it wouldn't be the same. Chris Jones is the Patrick Mahomes of this offense. He makes this offense turn. He is that quarterback of the offense. He makes it go. And if you lose him, your defense is nothing the same. That's not the same as the offense losing Tyreek Hill. Did you lose the speed and the game-breaking ability? Yeah. But you still had Patrick Mahomes, you had Travis Kelce, and you had a good core of wide receivers, and they showed they did not miss a beat being the number 1 offense in the league and holding up the Lombardi at the end of the year. You can't replace Chris Jones. You could go next in line. Let's say Quinnen Williams, Dexter Lawrence, or even Jeffrey Simmons. If you try to put them in the place of Chris Jones, they'd get production. They would not be Chris Jones. That is just a fact. And as you see Chris Jones grow into his role, he's going to continue to get better. And that's why I want to focus on this defensive line, and why I think he will continue to get better is because this defensive line is underappreciated as well. I feel like not a lot of us are focusing in on it, and a lot of us feel like, oh, they need to keep enhancing it, improving it. That way it can be one of the best in the leagues. But there have been sneaky additions to this line. And also, we keep undermeaning and undervaluing of what this D-line did last year. They were second in the league in sacks with 55 last year. And what do we just keep doing? We keep asking and requesting, get pass rushers. We need to get after the quarterback. Like, we already aren't doing it. Like, come on now. Like, George Karlaftis going into his second year. Focus on what he did at the end of year 1. He had his up and downs, but his motor was always relentless. Then once he found a way to get the quarterback, it's like he couldn't stop. He ended the year with 6 sacks, and majority of those came in the last 6 weeks of the season. You best believe he's going to take another notch up as well. And then you got guys like a Derek Nottie, who is a good rotational contributor on the defensive tackle position, and then Keandre Coburn, who I think could be a steal of a 6th-round pick. I don't know how much he's going to contribute in his rookie year, but he can be that Robin to Chris Jones Batman that we have been looking for. But also the biggest piece to all of this, and I think one of those basically hidden players, is Charles Omenihu. You need to watch what he did with San Francisco. He is the reason why Spags wanted him so much. Was he can move anywhere on the defensive line. He can play defensive tackle. He can play defensive end. You put him anywhere, he's going to cause chaos. And that's what Spags has been trying to do with Chris Jones. And you can see it's been getting better and better. But Omenihu, he's already got that up his sleeve. He may start off as pass rusher. He may start off on the inside with Chris Jones. But at the end of the day, he knows how to get after the quarterback. And if Chris Jones has someone like Charles Omenihu, who is that young and who can cause chaos and is relentless, that makes Chris Jones better. If someone on that defensive line can step up and take one of those guys and draw that double team to them, How are you gonna stop Chris Jones? It's gonna be damn near impossible. And then they drafted the likes of Felix Anudike-Uzomah, who is gonna be a promising pass rusher in this league. I really believe it. I keep watching him, and I just gotta silence those critics as well, because there's been a lot of Chiefs Kingdom. There's been a lot of NFL media saying the Kansas City Chiefs only drafted him because he's from K-State, and that's how they wanted to wrap up a Kansas City Chiefs draft. You guys are so bizarre with your takes sometimes. I really, really swear. Felix Anudike-Uzomah is worthy of that pick, and he can be a contributor in his rookie year. Kind of similar to what George Karlaftis is. If Felix Anudike-Uzomah can give you 6 sacks his rookie year, that's a win. And then also, look at this free agent market. The Kansas City Chiefs are by far no means done with adding pass rushers. They can bring the lights of a Frank Clark back or Carlos Dunlap. There's still a Yannick Ngakoue out there, Justin Houston, Melvin Ingram. Best believe they're going to add a veteran pass rusher. That's just what Brett Veach, that's what Joe Coleman, and that's what Spags is about. They get their veteran guys. Listen to the names I just listed. This is a deep line and a deep pass rushing group. If some of those guys can help, contribute, and take away pressures off of Chris Jones, it's game over. It's end all for any offensive line going to Chris Jones. And I believe he may not have 15.5 sacks, but who's to say he can't have double-digit sacks again? He's going into year 8. He's looking better than ever. He's looking bigger than ever. And he is going to be a menace on the line. He's going to be fun to watch. That's why I say you extend him. And there have been reports by Nate Taylor saying that Chris Jones is looking for an extension, and it can be yearly wise from 3 to 4 years, upwards of $25 million, what we have discussed. Why isn't that not signed? I think that should be signed, sealed, and delivered. I think that should be easy. I know early on I was getting more agitated because I was like, damn, why aren't we getting this going? But if you focus, and I think I say this a lot, if you focus on what Brett Veach and the Kansas City Chiefs do, they don't usually extend or sign their guys in the early portions of the NFL free agency. They like to wait before that training camp and into training camp kicks off in July. And then you see those big extensions come in. That's just how it moves. And I believe that's when Chris Jones will sign his extension, and he will be a Kansas City Chief for life. So knock off all these absurd trade Chris Jones, get the most you can for him. That would be the dumbest thing the Kansas City Chiefs could do. So I don't see it happening. But at the end of the day, anything could happen. But if they went that direction, they would be in a much, much worse situation than they are now. I believe what they are doing on this defense all around with the defensive line, linebackers, and secondary is very promising. The Kansas City Chiefs can have one of the best defenses or one of the better defenses that they've had going into 2023 under Spags. With that, Chiefs Kingdom, I'm going to close this video off. You let me know how you feel about Chris Jones. Do you think we should extend him? That should be an easy yes. Now, if you are a part of the crew that believe we should trade him, let's discuss in the comments. I don't think it will be a good discussion, and let's just go back and forth with it. But before I do close out this video, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you did like this video, please leave that big thumbs up. Y'all take care. Peace.